Oh man, this is heavy. This is heavy. The fact that, and I don't use this word often, but one of my heroes is no longer with us. I know that I want to say Saturday night, late Saturday night, but or was it? Yeah, it was basically like Sunday morning. It was like 2 or 3 o'clock. I just randomly woke up, um, out of the blue, stayed up for about 30 minutes or so. I went online and I saw Jason David Frank trending, and I thought that, oh, okay, well, I know that if I remember correctly, they are either currently working on or they just got around to finishing the 40th Power Rangers anniversary special. They have a bunch of returning cast members, such as Aisha, the second yellow Mighty Morphin Power Ranger, Zach, the original Black Ranger, David Yost, Billy, who is the original Blue Ranger, who we haven't seen part of the franchise since Zeo, so that was a big deal to get him back. And I believe Rocky, the second Red Ranger, Catherine, the second Pink Ranger, a new character who's supposed to be, I believe, the daughter of Trini, who her actress unfortunately passed away in real life. I want to say during the early 2000s. So that was one of the first. That was the first original Power Ranger who unfortunately passed away in real life. And like I said, when I saw Jason David Frank, I'm like, oh, okay. Well, I think earlier this year he announced that he was all but officially retiring from the Power Ranger franchise. In terms of like conventions and being involved with the show and whatnot. I think he had the Legend of the White Dragon, like a film or something he was producing himself. But when I clicked on it, I saw a bunch of people. This was at a time where it was only maybe trending with 1,200 or so tweets, so it wasn't really blowing up like it would when I woke up yesterday morning on a Sunday. But I had seen where people were mad at two YouTubers or content creators who I've been following for years. I believe Geekdom 101 and Unrelented Gaming. These two, I got into their channels through their reviews of the Dragon Ball franchise. And people had screenshotted their original tweets about him, passing away. And then, they had taken them down, and people were resharing screenshots of them saying, oh, well, out of respect to the family and whatnot, I took the original tweets down because people thought they were lying. And, for me, I never want to believe these sort of things because, what was it? Not even a few days. Yeah, a few days prior to the weekend, there was the whole hashtag RIP Jimmy Fallon. And it was one of them things where people just come up with anything just to do it. So I just went back to sleep, not thinking too much of him. Oh, no, he's fine. But then I woke up, man, yesterday morning, and I saw just even more tweets about the same thing where more people were talking about it, but only due to the fact that people still were in disbelief until TMZ or Variety or TV Line or or Shade Room or whoever, until these major sources we generally go to for this kind of news, until they post it, I'm not believing it. And again, I'm like, what, the people just go too far with this. But then I want to say around 9 o'clock, I saw a friend of mine on Facebook post about it, and I commented, I'm like, yeah, man, I've been seeing it all since last night, but I just don't want to believe it until it's been really checked out. But then he told me that, hey, man, Walter, the guy that played Zach, the original Black Ranger, he just shared the news, and so did a couple of other close people, and it's real. Unfortunately, Jason David Frank took his own life, and at 49, and that's pretty heavy, because as a 90s baby, I grew up in 91. MMPR, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, came out in 93. So my mom told me, like, even like at 2 or 3 or however old I was at the time, I was watching the show, but obviously being so young, it wasn't until like the likes of pre-K, so around the time I was 4, that's when I was really into it because I can talk and whatnot. But yeah, I grew up with that stuff, and it was really heavy to hear that news. As a 90s kid, the past week in general has been a roller coaster ride. I didn't really post about this. I think I maybe posted it in the stories on my Instagram, but for you all to see, I'm talking to you all on here on the channel. But, as a 90s baby, when Pokemon came to the United States, I was hyped. I was here for that, and I've been here since, in terms of being a fan of that franchise. And seeing Ash Ketchum from Pallet Town become the world's strongest Pokemon trainer in the anime was something fans from the 90s we never thought would happen. Yeah, he won a Pokemon League a couple years ago, but defeating Leon and becoming the world champion, never thought it would happen. But then that same day, I think it was Friday before last, that same day, not even a couple hours after the episode aired in Japan, and we were hyped for that, we found out Kevin Conroy passed from cancer. Kevin Conroy, the iconic voice of Batman. I mean, from the Batman the Animated Series, Justice League Unlimited, basically the DCAU or DC Animated Universe, he was Batman. I mean, sure, we had Michael Keaton, before that, Adam West, Ben Affleck, and the list goes on, but that was live action. Kevin Conroy's voice as Batman spanned it across so many different platforms, from animated films, like they recently did a Killing Joke a few years ago, and of course the Arkham games. So for me personally, and a lot of people I know, Kevin Conroy is Batman. Anytime pick up a comic book and I'm reading, it's Kevin Conroy's voice I'm hearing when I'm reading the characters of Bruce Wayne or Batman. So like I said, as a 90s kid, seeing Ash finally achieve this great goal was amazing. But those tears of joy turned to tears of sadness that same day when a voice from our childhood, left us. And then a week later, here we go again with Tommy Oliver, aka, of course, Jason David Frank. He's gone too. And the thing about Jason, and I always want to say Tommy because I know Jason David Frank is his real name, but every time I say Jason, I think Jason the Red Ranger. But JDF, he was such a popular part of the franchise. Like what Robert Downey Jr. was to the MCU. That's what Jason David Frank was to Power Rangers, because Mighty Morphin, Zeo, Turbo, Dino Thunder, even before that, Wild Force in the iconic episode Forever Red. Then of course he showed up again in Super Mega Force for the Legendary War. And if I'm not mistaken, the last on-screen appearance for like a big crossover was Super Ninja Steel, Dimensions in Danger. Then one of the best comic books I've read, Soul of the Dragon, which thankfully he had input on, which was a great way to close out the Tommy character. And of course, Lord Draken, the evil Tommy from a different dimension. Shattered Grid, again, another one of the best story arcs in a comic book I've ever read that wasn't like DC or Marvel. It was a legit Power Ranger story that made me go, wow, this is great. So his presence in the franchise will forever be felt from the number of conventions he's went to. Like, he was that guy, like he was always willing to represent the Power Rangers brand. And I think that obviously Tommy is who he's best known for, but JDF being present at so many different events for the franchise really is what people will remember him for the most. And Unfortunately, I never got to meet him. I think at best, I think there were maybe a couple of interactions on like a Facebook or Instagram post where I would comment something and he would like it in reply, in which I thought was awesome. This was, I mean, it was just so surreal. So this is heavy, man. And it really sucks because of the fact that I'm 31 and obviously people from my childhood are older now than when they, how old they were when I was a kid. But I was just talking to a friend this morning before I recorded this. I'm like, yo, man, I know we're getting old, but I wasn't expecting, these people to, leave us till we were like in our 40s or something. But, just a lot to take from this, the biggest one being that you just never know what someone's going through. There have been different, yesterday, Sunday, as the day went on, there was just like more and more stuff from behind the scenes that were coming out. Like, things I didn't know about, obviously, because I didn't really, hear about it too much, because that's how great a guy he was. Where that's the thing where we don't know I don't know these people on a personal level, but at the same time, in terms of what I saw and what people were saying yesterday after, his news of his passing, was revealed, not a bad thing. I didn't hear or see a single bad thing. All I saw was people remembering a pillar from their childhood. A great guy, always willing to smile, take a picture, have a conversation, for as long as time permitted, because, those conventions, those lines were crazy. The hype whenever Tommy would return on screen, the epicness of the Green Ranger. Yeah, he had White Ranger, Red Ranger, 2 times over Zeo and Turbo, Black Dino Thunder, but that Green Ranger, I remember as a kid, like, White Ranger was awesome, but when you got older, you realized the Green Ranger was more badass, and that was pretty epic in itself. But I think what really tore me up as the day went on was seeing other cast members, Power Rangers, not just from Mighty Morphin, but remember, Jason was part of so many different seasons of the show. So his I guess you could say his reach expanded beyond just the Mighty Morphin era. So I think the one post that tore me up was another Jason Font. I probably spelled that wrong. Said that wrong. Faunt. Jason Font. He played. If you're a Power Ranger fan, you'll know him. He played Wes from Time Force, and just like Tommy, he's been in a number of seasons. And these two are really close because they showed up at so many. Jason was definitely. Excuse me. Let me just say Wes, because again, him, Jason, David, Frank, Jason Font. Wes, he was as active within the Power Rangers conventions, in that field of the brand, just like Tommy was. I mean, I remember Forever Red was when these two, first worked together. And from there, they appeared multiple times, like in the Legendary Battle and, Super Ninja Steel and, other things. But his post pretty much said it all. We started off as co-workers, then as friends, then eventually, a mentor to me, and then a big brother. And I talk to you daily, and I didn't see this coming. It came out of nowhere. I feel like I failed you, but I will do what I can to keep your legacy alive, to, spread that energy and positivity you had. And that just speaks volumes, because you could see or talk to a person every single day, smile on their face. Sure, they might have some bad days, but overall, there's that, positivity that, wow, okay, this person is, they're good. And, I'll just see them tomorrow. But then something tragic like this happens, personal things, divorce and whatnot. But it just goes to show you just never know what a person's going through or what they have deep inside that they aren't telling you. And then when something tragic happens, you just think, what if I did something different? Or what if I had called them, 5 minutes before it happened? Like, you had a feeling, you know what? Let me call so-and-so. I'll just wait till tomorrow. It's late. Or, you know what? Maybe we should just go out to dinner or just hang out. talk, like, because maybe you felt something was off, but you can't go back. And that's the thing, because you're always going to be thinking, what if I had done something differently? But it just shows you that, like I said, you just never know what someone's going through. And I didn't mean for this video to be so long, but it just hurts. It really does, because, of course, the recent Black Panther 2 was a reminder of Chadwick's, how he left us a couple of years ago. And then, like I just said, Kevin Conroy last week, and Jason David Frank, we learned as of yesterday. And for me, it really hurts, because before Tyler Perry, before, I really got into, of course, Tyler Perry content, because, well, it really wasn't out there back in the day. Before the MCU, before I got into the DC animated universe as a kid and whatnot, before Pokemon and anime in general, it was Power Rangers, Power Rangers, Power Rangers. Of course, as a kid growing up, you had the Sesame Street, the PBS, shows, but Power Rangers was the shit for me. But, to really kind of wrap things up, I just wanted to talk about some of my favorite Tommy Oliver moments. And if you're a Power Ranger fan, then you can relate to this. But just to name off a few in no particular order, and then I will talk about my favorite moment, because I did post that on social media. Of course, when Tommy first showed up, that Green with Evil, the 5-part miniseries, which was like the first miniseries in Power Rangers. And this was back in the day when Fox Kids would air during a week, 5 new episodes, Monday through Friday, new episode. I would get off the school bus, run home, throw off my book bag, and, grab some apple juice or whatever, get in front of the TV, Fox Kids. I would be watching Power Rangers. Because remember, as a 90s kid, this was before the days of DVR, Netflix. When you watched the TV show, you had to watch it when it came on, because won't no telling when there will be a rerun. And, my mom, we had VHSs, but we didn't have a crazy amount. I think I still got all my VHSs. They're literally in the closet, in my room here. But we had way more Disney than Power Rangers. And when Tommy showed up, that was just the Green Ranger. He fucked shit up. That first appearance. I mean, it was a 5-episode mini arc, but that first episode was the one. New teen in town. He was a match for Jason in terms of combat, martial arts. Rita took him. The dude broke into the Megazord, showed the Rangers his hands were ready to eat for everyone. Got a badass weapon, the Dragon Zord, and of course the Dragon Dagger, which to this day we're still wondering how this man was able to play a flute with a helmet on. But it was just epic. That was just epic. Of course, when he returned as the White Ranger, that shit was hype as hell. Then as the show went on, of course, like I said, in Zeo, I really didn't care for Zeo that much, believe it or not. It didn't really feel like a great season overall. Japanese version was way better. But of course, that was when Tommy became the Red Ranger and led the team. I think that's what really kind of made it stink, because the thing about Tommy was he was always the Ranger with the unique costume, the unique swords and weapons, but being Red Ranger, he just kind of fell in place with the rest of the team. And of course, the ironic part was Jason, the Red Ranger from Mighty Morphin, became the Gold Ranger in Zeo, and he was the one who made an epic return and had new powers. So that was pretty cool. Turbo really didn't care about this season. Plus, that was the season when Tommy left and TJ took his place. But then, of course, Wild Force Forever Red, epic episode. I highly recommend that to any Power Ranger fan. I remember when that first came out, 10 Red Rangers in the same episode. I was in middle school or 6th grade. I forgot which one, but because back in my day, 6th grade was in elementary, not in middle school. That was epic. Then, of course, when he became a mentor in Dino Thunder, that was great. And then my nephew, I did watch, Legendary War, but it wasn't that good. But that's when Tommy and all the other Rangers came back. And then Ninja Steel, I did a video on that one. That's when they created National Power Ranger Day. And that was like, August 28th, which is the day before my birthday, August 29th. I did a review on that special. I was like, it was good, but it was way too much Tommy. Because, it felt like the focus was on him when you had a batch of other veteran Rangers, which is the ironic part because even Jason David Frank not too long ago said in the video about how Tommy is being oversaturated and there's more that they could do with the character instead of just, putting out 50 new toys of the same Green Ranger or whatever. But it makes the episode more special now because that's literally our last piece of Tommy media in terms of being part of the main series. But as the series went on, I loved other Rangers, but of course Tommy was always the standout. And I think that the Red Ranger is always that guy, but the Green Ranger, Tommy, he's always that other guy. It's always like one of the two, because those are like the top tier Rangers right there. And it really hurts. It does. Because, I mean, it just sucks. It really does. But yeah, let me go ahead and talk about my favorite Tommy moment. Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Season 2, Episode 13, or Episode 73, Green No More. This was when Tommy had lost his powers, because if you remember, Rita gave him the powers of the Green Ranger. Then he became good once his the mind spell that Rita used had been broken by the other Rangers, and he became a good guy. But over time, we find out that his powers were draining because the Green Ranger power was only temporary, apparently. Or because it had been, stricken from the powers of evil. It was limited or whatever. So there was the green candle that would burn up his power. So every time he would morph and, get into a fight, his powers would drain even faster. And once the candle went out, his powers were gone for good. So, Tommy was kidnapped by one of the monsters. It was some slow hermit crab thing, and it stole the rest of his powers. So Tommy, ironically enough, the Power Ranger, was now powerless. And Goldar came to gloat and basically was standing over him saying, I'm your superior. I want to hear you say it. And then Tommy was like, Goldar, you say it or out of your mind. Yeah. Then he jumps in the air, punches him in the chest, starts fighting him. Mind you, as a kid, this shit was epic because, number one, the Green Ranger theme song was amazing and still is. It holds up because there was such great music in the franchise back then. Then, of course, he beat Goldar. But my favorite part, well, he beat him but by outsmarting him. He held his own pretty well, but, Goldar is way more powerful, of course. But Tommy still kicked him on his ass a couple times. But my favorite bit was when Tommy went, I almost gave up on myself, Goldar, but you reminded me of how much good I've done. Not just as the Green Ranger, but as me, plain old Tommy. And for me, that was always the most epic part. I mean, I'm 31, but I've always held that line with me because it was Tommy remembering that he was a capable hero in and out of costume, powers or no costume. This battle, he didn't have any dragon dagger, no sword, no weapons. It was just him, and he still won. And that's what really makes his death and the way he passed even more tragic by suicide, because that line, I almost gave up on myself. I almost gave up on myself. But then you find out how he passed, and that's what makes it hurt even more. But it's like they say, I wouldn't even say never meet your heroes here. I would never say that, but I would say that never forget that the people who we idolize or look up to, they're people too. It's like they always say, remember the lesson. You don't always have to remember the teacher. But I know it's been heavy for a lot. I've talked with various people on Instagram and whatnot. Some people like, you know what, man, I saw your post and I was crying because Jason David Frank was the reason I studied martial arts. Because if I'm not mistaken, he was an MMA fighter, and he had a number of martial arts, video VHSs. Yeah, VHSs back in the day. Some people like, I still have my VHS of when I would study his martial arts moves and everything. And then I did karate as a kid. I became a black belt, and it just hurts. And this video is so long, I forgot if I already mentioned it, but my nephew, we spent most of the day yesterday talking about it. and he was sad too. And I told him, like, look, man, not to, say you don't have any right to be sad, because as a kid you watch Power Rangers. So yeah, Tommy, Jason, he was part of your life growing up. But and this is why I felt bad, but I'm like, but you weren't there though. I'm sorry. I was as gentle as possible. Like, look, EJ, you weren't there though. Like, back in the day when Power Rangers first came out, I was there, because you had the luxury of having the DVD sets. You could binge them on Netflix. All the seasons that you didn't even exist for, that I was here for. I had to wait week to week for episodes. Like, at first it was 5 episodes a week, but then eventually it was 1 episode per week. Then Tommy was gone from the halfway mark of Turbo all the way to Wild Force. And that was like, hang on. In Space, Lost Galaxy, Lightspeed Rescue, Time Force, Wild Force. About half a decade before he finally came back. Then eventually in Dino Thunder. Then, of course, as the years went on, because back in the day, they really didn't put Power Rangers on DVD. They might put a few episodes on the DVD, but it wasn't until recently when they put the full seasons on DVD. Like, I remember when I had started college, so we're talking like 2009, 2010, and 11. That's when I started buying the DVDs on Amazon UK. So I would have to buy the DVD sets from Europe and get them shipped to the US, and I had to buy like a special DVD player that had the region 2. Basically, because the DVD came from another part of the world, it needed a different region or something like that. And that was the only way I could buy Dino Thunder or Wild Force or whatever. So then, of course, they put them out within recent years from Shout Factory, I think. So I told my nephew, like, look, man, because back in the day, Tommy was it. Like, when he came on screen, played that flute, or he took out Saba, shit was about to get real. And then, of course, whenever he made epic returns for big crossovers, they were huge events. So, yeah, he was part of your life. Definitely. I bought you the Lightning Collectible Dragon Dagger. He said he's going to keep that sealed, of course, because he's never opened it, because he wants to be like me and sell stuff on eBay and whatnot. But I just told him that, yeah, it just really, really sucks, because he was such a big part of my childhood. And I don't think a celebrity passing has hit me this much since Kobe, which is ironic, because I think I did a video then where I never followed sports, but his death was just so sudden that it just made me stop and think about, life in general and whatnot. But yeah, it really hurts. I mean, because they were like, my mom was like, dang, I could tell you're upset. Like, there have been family and whatnot that have passed, and you haven't been acting like this. But it's like, and again, not to sound cruel, but there's something about childhood heroes now, because in the 90s, and early 2000s, I'm just mentioning like my time frame going to school. It wasn't cool to like Power Rangers or Pokemon or Marvel and stuff like that. Nowadays, you're out of the loop if you don't know that stuff. But back in the day, like, once you reached a certain grade, it wasn't cool. People be like, yo, man, you still watch that? I never let it bother me though, because I just knew not to talk about it as frequently as I used to. But, as cheesy as it sounds, those shows were comfort. They taught you, valuable lessons and whatnot. Friendship, teamwork, which I really prefer working alone myself. But it just shows you that these things stick. They really do. They really do. Especially when it's good material that good people present, and they influence a lot. So yeah, like I said, I didn't mean for this video to go on for as long as it did, but I just had to get up here and talk, because this is heavy. This is heavy. So I know, and look, that's why I didn't do a lot of videos. I do have a full list in front of me, all recorded. I just need to edit. So like the Ruthless stuff, I knew people were asking me about that all day, because I did say I would have it up over the weekend, but this Tommy thing just hit out of left field. Then, of course, got a new refrigerator because Thanksgiving's coming up, new microwave too, so we had to move all this crazy stuff around. But damn. But thoughts and prayers, I mean, as a fan, that it's a one hurt, but then you remember how many people this man has influenced, those who have met him in person, those who have worked with him, and of course his family, which I can't even imagine the pain they're going through So thoughts and prayers to everyone close to the late Jason David Frank. And like I said, if you feel like something's off, somebody just say, hey, are you okay, man? Or are you okay, girls? Like, you just, are you okay, friend? Whatever you want to say, because you just never know what someone's going through. And if you are going through something like that, and you just need to talk to somebody, just remember, one conversation could possibly save your life. And the best thing to remember is, if you feel like no one cares or you don't matter, just know that your absence is going to impact at least one person. And just think about that one person and just say, you know what? I'm just going to keep on going. And that's the thing, because like I said, I don't know what was going through his mind, and I don't even like to think about that kind of stuff. But the number of people that cared about that man, it just shows you that you can have everything but then still feel empty on the inside. So rest in peace, one of my childhood heroes. This is going to take a while to get past. And like I said, this is still fresh, because I just know as time goes on and more and more outlets post like memorials, favorite Tommy moments. I mean, that's the happy part. We can like connect about our favorite, like Power Ranger moment that Tommy was, part of. And then, when eventually, the funeral or whatever they decide to do happens. Oh God, like I said, next year, what is it, the 40th anniversary? I know they're probably going to do some sort of tribute, because like I said, this man was the franchise for so long. So, that's all I got to say. Like I said, I didn't mean for this to go this long, but it was definitely something I had to get off my chest, because it was really, and still is, pretty damn hurtful. So thanks so much for tuning in, and I'll just be on the lookout for more content. Tyler Perry affiliated. Don't worry, it's coming. This really just tore me up.